But given the circumstances, the fact that Switzerland wants transparency in the international banking laws,
Yes.
your government has set an example of sorts by sharing the data with the US. If the Indian government wants the data on some of the Indian tax offenders, you will be willing to share it with the government of India?
Yes, and I would even add relatively fast. I mean, then it's for the Indian government to file the requests where they think they have a case of tax evasion or tax fraud, as it was possible before. And then it would be examined according to the rules which have been agreed upon for we call that administrative assistance. That's the technical term to say when the Swiss government says yes and imposes on a bank to lift the secrecy on specific data. That's the operation.
Okay, because we had an interview with one of the Swiss bankers, Mr. Elmer, who said that
Yes.
a lot of Indians, including celebrities, cricketers, politicians, their money is stashed in Swiss accounts, the banks there. They even have paintings, gold, all that is lying there. And in the interest of the relationship between the two countries, will you be willing to even share the data from a previous period, say, data 5 years back or something?
The negotiated revised treaty is very clear on that. It says that it applies, this for reason of rule of law. Your retroactivity is in contradiction with the principle of rule of law in any country. You don't have a new law which is applied retroactively. So this means that we have agreed, very clearly agreed that from the day of the ratification on, both governments, it goes both ways, are entitled to submit requests for release of data concerning income generated during the current fiscal year. So this means there's a very short retroactivity, so to say, and there's a difference. We are a bit more generous than the Indian government because we conceded the retroactivity for the current fiscal year, which starts in Switzerland 1st of January, whereas your fiscal year starts only on 1st of April. So we give 3 more months. But this is the limitation of the retroactivity. It's for income which has been generated during the current fiscal year.
Excellency, your government believes in transparency.
Yes.
And if there is a situation where you believe that there is a terror mastermind whose money, a fugitive from India, whose money may have been, invested in other Swiss banks and is lying there, would you then share the data on such a person with India?
Technically, it's not exactly the same. This would be then something we call legal assistance, that is from one court to the other requests in penal cases, a crime. We don't see tax evasion as a crime. It's still illegal. You get it's an offense for which you can be fined. This is the substance of the double taxation avoidance agreement. Whereas in real crime cases, in criminal cases, there's not a setting, a tough one. I mean, then it's about legal assistance, and then the Swiss government will be able to act even without treaty on the basis of a federal act on legal assistance. When there's a country, a government, making a request for all sorts of support, procedural support in a court case, then the Swiss assistance would go far. Because there is no interest whatsoever in Switzerland in protecting crime. Quite to the contrary, we have a very high standard of fighting crime.
So if the government of India requests in any particular case where you feel that there's something more than a tax evasion, you will be willing to share records with India?
We are able to share on the basis of our legislation and with any government, provided the requests fulfill formal requirements, because there we have the limitation of rule of law. Once we forget about the respect for rule of law, then the world becomes a dangerous place. So we have to insist on the rule of law, and that is to the benefit of the world.